Alright, you guys wanted the Ancestor tier list, so I'm going to do it now. I was going to save it for later, but I just really didn't think that it would win by such a landslide on the polls. Like it was a very large margin on that post that I did. So I might as well just do it now. And just bear in mind, one, obviously this is my opinion. It's not 100% objective. And two, this is just relative to the current meta. It's definitely subject to change. Who knows, the next Ancestor, the Honor Dojo Ancestor, could just completely flip the meta on its head and completely change around the order of these monsters. It happens all the time. Like originally, Diabolus was a fair bit lower. He was under, I think I had him under Primerion at one point. I don't remember exactly when, but now Underworld Dweller's Trap is like very easily available for everyone, so I had to move him up a fair bit. Anweir was very low before Linnaeus and Adelaide were in the game, and now I value him a lot more. It's honestly, I'll get into it. It might be controversial having him that high. That's one thing that on this list that I'm not 100% sure on. So yeah, definitely, like I said, some of these things are subject to change. Um, but yeah, we'll see how it goes, I guess. We'll see how the meta changes. To start things off, at the very, very, very bottom of D tier, yes, the tiers are ordered. So on the very far right is going to be the worst. On the very far left is going to be the best. We've got Calorc. I genuinely believe he's the worst Ancestor in the game. A lot of people, for some reason, say Rober. I think he's super underrated. I don't know why people say that. I kind of outlined my thoughts in another video if you guys want to check that out. But yeah, Calorc, I just really... The D tier monsters are just monsters that I genuinely think have zero use cases. Like, I don't think they actually have like any situation that I would actually choose to use them in. Neither of them are in any books that would make me inclined to use them in any wars. There's one thing I really, really, really like about Calorc, and that is his virtues. He's got some really cool virtues. I really like double and triple damage. It's super interesting to me. And torture resistance is good. I just don't think it really fits well for him. Torture resistance for a monster like Adelaide is good. For a tank, I think it's really useful. I really don't find it to be good on a monster like Calorc, who's more of an attacker. I wouldn't really call him a tank because a status caster taunt, and like applying taunt as a status effect for one turn, that really doesn't constitute a tank to me. So torture resistance, when you're getting hit with tortures like Hellfire, Sunburn, ones that reduce your accuracy, he's still obviously suffering from that. Whereas Adelaide, you don't really have to worry about that. You don't have to worry about accuracy reducing status effects. You don't have to really worry about hitting the enemy at all unless you want to use your ult. He's just basically there to tank hits. So I think torture resistance is really good, just depending on the type of monster. Like, I think it really does not fit for an attacker. Calorc has awful awakening conditions. 7 tortures to him himself is horrible, especially when Adelaide's is 4 tortures to your whole team. It's just like night and day. And that's not even to mention Calorc's overall just not very good moveset. I really like this skill. I really like that he can sustain himself. I love monsters that can heal himself. But yeah, he doesn't really warrant any use ever. I've really tried to use him. I really like him as a monster. I think he's super cool. But I don't think he's usable at all. I think he is, without a doubt, the worst Ancestor in the game. And before I move on to Griffonia, I just do want to add, he does at least have an Essence slot. Griffonia does too, so not really anything over her, but at least he can revive. That makes him a little bit more useful to me. For Griffonia, it's a little bit of a weird case because she's got a very, very good trait. She's got really good skills. She got access to 0 cooldown, 0 stamina skill. She can sustain herself, pierce, evasion. She's got really good skill set. She's got a bunch of different elements too. She can revive. But for me, it's her stats. So, in my opinion, deniers and attackers, they suffer so much more than like a supporter or a cursor when they start to get outdated. An old attacker just isn't going to get the same damage numbers as they used to compared to like the newer mythic stats are going to have life that an older attacker just can't compete with. I don't really have a ton to say about Griffonia. I think you could really make a good case for her being up in C just because she doesn't have a lot of attackers to compete with in the winged book. So that's definitely valid to put her up in C, but I just, the stat difference compared to the newer mythics, they just have too much health for her to actually compete with, unfortunately. Bashir is a super odd case. I mostly just have him up here due to the books that he's in. Adventurer's book just doesn't really have a lot of options for monsters. Usually, I personally get stuck with like Bashir, Mements, Dumbane, and King Wanderer. Those are like my four somewhat viable options. And I don't even really end up using Bashir that much because like he just isn't as good as those other three monsters straight up. I think it's very unrealistic for someone to think in 2025 to think to themselves like, hey, Bashir would be perfect for this situation. And for me, that's why he's down here. I know some people would put him above Tyr and Rober. I just don't I just don't see it. I've never had a situation where I'm like, huh, Bashir would actually be pretty good here. He's just kind of there. He's just there because of his books. He doesn't really do anything too crazy. You kind of just have to base your whole win condition around getting his ult. And unfortunately, it's very hard. You need to be fighting a very specific team of monsters to actually get it. And yeah, if that's not your goal, then he's not really doing anything. I mean, I guess you could do the stamina drain on some sort of war base that doesn't have any stamina regenerating relics, but realistically, when is that going to happen? So yeah, at the end of the day, he's got a nice trait. He's got some nice relic slots, but his skills are just super lacking. He's got a horrible awakening condition. He's just he's really only usable because of his book, and there are monsters that are better in the book that are also like available to people too. I mean, I'm pretty sure Mements was in the team shop like not too long ago. He might even be in the team shop right now. So I apologize to all the Bashir fans out there, all the one or two Bashir fans out there that I'm dissing on him. I just, yeah, at the end of the day, it's just his book for me. Rober, I have above him because I think he's very slightly more useful. I went more into detail in another video. Um, Same with Tyr, but at the end of the day, it boils down to just he gets his awakening very easily. He has three virtues, so basically any hit from a good attacker to anyone in your team, as long as you have a decent relic on him, he awakens, he gets his Megaton, so he gets it faster than most Megaton status caster monsters. But same thing as Bashir, he doesn't really have much use cases. There's not really any situation, or not many at least, that I would be like, hey, Rober would be perfect here. He's more of like a defense monster that you use just to troll people that would severely underestimate him. And then moving on to Tyr, I think he is slightly better than Rober, not by a ton, but I think he's got some really good synergy with Diabolus, and mostly what it boils down to is he gets a pretty easy awakening, just spamming tortures, especially if you pair him up with someone like Sabidu or Diabolus, and then you just get like a free ult, basically, a very easy ult that's essentially just an AoE trait disable, remove positive, and mega stun with a little bit of damage. And then you've likely also already got a bunch of torture stacked up, so once you can get that move off, you've basically won the battle. He's pretty one-dimensional. You're really just moving towards that one skill. You just want to awaken him, use your ult, and then the battle's basically over. Tyr gets brought down super hard by his trait. I'm really not a fan of his trait. It's just super cheeks in my opinion. And overall, aside from his ult and him getting it pretty easily, his skills just aren't that good. Like, you can load him up with a Summit Folk sword or like an Elvira's sword, and he can get this pretty easily. That's basically his only utility. His virtues are fine, his skills are fine, his traits garbage, his relic slots are fine. He just doesn't really stand out. That's why I have him pretty low. And not to mention his stats aren't the greatest at this point in the game, but I think he's at least usable in the right situation if necessary, just like Rober and Bashir. Now we're finally getting into some more interesting monsters. Kirk is a very weird case. He stands out in his book a little bit at least because there's not really a lot of attackers in that book. There's not really a lot of damaging options. He just doesn't stand out as a monster. He's such a bland attacker. He's got some of my favorite virtues in the game by far. He's got usable relic slots for sure. He's got decent relic slots. But skill wise, he just doesn't really do anything special. He's just kind of there. Kirk is just super average in my opinion, and that's what lands him down here. My only real big complaint about him is just how vulnerable he is to tortures, but I think the other things that he does at least somewhat well are good enough to counteract that. And then, yeah, again, just the fact that he's the best attacker in his book. I don't think I've had too many controversial takes in the list so far until now. Some people might not like that I have Thetan above Kirk. This is one of those ones that you could really swap them both out and I wouldn't be too mad. Kirk's got the advantage of, well, they're both in the same book. Kirk's got the advantage of being the best attacker in the book. Thetan is not the only supporter in the book. I know he's technically a denier, but like realistically, no one's going to use him as a denier in 2024. His stats just aren't usable. So I'm going to class him as a supporter just due to his trait and the healing, stamina regen skills. He's not the only supporter in that book. Kirk is the only good attacker in that book, unless you want to count like Aquatorum, which I don't really. So I think Kirk stands out more in that way, but I find Thetan to be more useful. Just obviously res block, I find his trait to be better. He's got really good relic slots, whereas Kirk's are just like solid. And I just find this skill specifically to be really useful in combat. It's such a good fallback if you happen to be losing a war attack. He's also just a nice team speed holder. He doesn't really do anything to help you win the battle aside from just res block, some nice healing and stamina regen, and some good relic slots, but I think those alone are enough to put him just above Kirk for me. But yeah, this is potentially one of the more controversial opinions, and this is one that I'm not even 100% sure on. I think they're pretty equal. As time goes on, I may actually value Kirk more, as Thetan's stats are just getting older and older and older. I think res block is one of those traits like anticipation where the stats don't matter as much, a stat gap is less relevant, so that definitely helps him out a little bit. Next, I wanted to do, instead of talking about Subidu specifically, I wanted to kind of do Subidu versus Enkidu and why I value Enkidu a little bit more. So, on paper, it seems like Subidu is actually better if you add it all up. He's got a better trait, he can sustain himself with healing, and to top it all off, he's got access to the best torture in the game, Toxins. I personally find Enkidu better. Oh yeah, and Subidu's also got, in my opinion, the better awakening condition. He definitely awakens a lot easier, a lot faster. Um, Enkidu, I find better personally for just the fact that he's got a direct trait disable. He's got a direct trait disable extra turn move. That's very, very useful for dealing with Linneus, Adelaide in the current meta. I think Subidu was probably better before. You could have made a really good case for him, but unfortunately, he doesn't do much against Linneus, and he's just absolutely useless against Adelaide because he needs to apply a bunch of tortures to actually get his awakening, which is how you would usually trait disable. So yeah, overall, I value Enkidu a little bit more, especially now that free reign staff is so easily available. I know the League of Hunters mask is also easily available. I just think that helps Subidu a lot less than the free reign staff helps Enkidu. The random tortures are really nice, and I actually quite like the healing and stamina regen. And the fact that he's already got an armor slot, so you can equip him with like an Honor Dojo or a Killer Oaks armor, and then put that staff on top of that. I really value that a lot personally. But mostly what it comes down to is just having an instant trait disable. It just helps too much against Adelaide and Linnaeus. So we're going up a tier now. I think all these monsters in A to S are at the very least usable in the meta, especially wars. They're very usable in wars, but if you want to make them work in multiplayer, you can. Maybe less so these ones at the bottom of A, but I think they're all usable, at least to some extent. So for Graciel, I think he's just such an incredible war monster specifically. If you're going up against a base that you know doesn't have any evasion removal, you're basically guaranteed to win the battle with Graciel. He really shines in just spamming evasion over and over again. He does also have some really nice percentage-based life removal skills. That makes him really useful. Obviously useless against Adelaide, but he's very useful against Linnaeus. He's got some solid relic slots. He's got a good trait. I really, really dislike his awakening. I hate his virtues. He's not a tank. He's not worth using with life runes. He's not worth using as a tank. His awakening conditions are fine. His actual ult is awful. But those really aren't relevant. You don't need those to be effective with Graciel. All he needs is mostly just these skills, but these ones help a lot too. You just need the 4 skills and the torture immunity and you're set. Overall, Graciel is a really good monster. A lot of people, including myself, were really underrating him for a long time, trying to use him as a tank. And then people on the subreddit kind of were talking about his main use case and just basically using him in the place of a denier. And I kind of caught on, tried it out, and then, yeah, it just hit me that if you use him right, he's actually an amazing monster. So moving on to Everest, this is another one of the ones where I could put him above Ganeza. I'm not 100% sure on the exact placement yet. So his use for me, he used to be a pretty alright denier if you just throw a Ganeza's Essence on him and just use that AoE Fear skill. But I don't really like doing that anymore just because his stats aren't the greatest at this point. So the way I use him is I stack him up with an Adventurer's Essence, and I just put 3 team speed on him. He's just a super easy fallback for you. So when you're in a war and you're unsure on the base, your 2 other monsters die, Everest is super hard to kill. Guaranteed he can probably awaken. If he somehow can't awaken and he dies, he's always going to be the last monster to die. Then the Adventurer's Essence kicks in and all your monsters are alive again. It's a super easy fallback in wars. For me, that's his main utility. I don't really see the point in using him as an attacker anymore. He just doesn't really get that good damage numbers. He wasn't really a great attacker in the first place, honestly. But yeah, I think he's really valuable for wars. I just probably wouldn't use him in multiplayer at this point. I've seen him once or twice recently in multiplayer, actually, which is pretty funny to me. In Olympus, too. But yeah, I just personally wouldn't use him in multiplayer anymore. Moving on to Ganeza, I think she's really good for superhero book wars. She's really good at dealing with Justin. She's got some nice synergy with Charm, oddly enough. Like if you want to pair them both up with Ganeza's essences, you can get some really awesome chip damage with that. And she's just an RNG queen. I talked about her in one of my other videos as well. I do think she's overrated, but I do still think she's really good. She's just not the best for multiplayer unless you want to do that one specific strategy with Charm and the double Ganeza's Essence. Honestly, the main reason I put her up this high is, well, one thing, ignore the runes. Those are placeholders. Well, mostly 2 reasons, actually. She's got really good relic slots. She can hold an Anderlast trap. And just the fact that she can get a status caster trait disable, status caster death countdown, negative effect protection. She can get some really crazy status casters, but that's why I called her an RNG queen, because that's really all she's good for. It's just getting lucky with her and just getting some crazy status casters, some crazy random debuffs. Before I continue on to Stina, I do just want to give a quick apology. I didn't want to make this video too long. I wanted to keep it as short as possible, so I'm trying not to go too in depth. But if there's anyone that wants to hear anything about any specific ancestors or like specific strategies with them at any point, do just let me know, and then I can hopefully make a video pertaining to that specific monster. But anyways, for Stina, I actually put her this high just because of her annoyance potential. I only recently found out, like just the other day, how powerful she is with a life rune because I just started ranking her up. She is so annoying with a life rune to deal with. You get her under 50% health and she awakens, so torture immunity, control immunity, virtue, very good virtues, super hard to deal with once she gets to under half health. And then the second she gets a turn in, she heals back to full while applying mega time stop to everyone. So she's just super annoying to deal with, and not to mention her debuffs too. And she's got a taunt disable extra turn move and some good relic slots too. Overall, I just think she's a very underrated monster. I'm trying to rank mine up to at least probably 140 so I can actually try using her in multiplayer because I think she's really interesting. Moving on to my baby, Primerion. I really miss when this guy was meta. I've said it 1,000 times and I'll continue saying it. I really like this monster. He has so many good tools. So I think he could be pretty interchangeable with both Sandrite and Anwir. So all these three are pretty debatable. I think Primerion is probably the best for wars, but when we're talking multiplayer, he falls off behind these two in my opinion. He's still kind of usable against enemy Megataunt since he has the baby reversion extra turn skill, which I really appreciate that he has. It's really nice for wars. But obviously, if you're dealing with anticipation, right now there's a lot of double anticipation teams too. That falls off super hard. Another really good thing about him is turn transfer. I find that to be super useful in wars. A lot of the time, I'll just throw 3 speed on him, pair him up with Rapunsteina, and then just one-shot the biggest threat with her. It's a super easy strategy. I mean, you can always use baby reversion on one of the monsters, then turn transfer. So basically, 2 monsters are either dead or shut down. You only have to deal with one after that. He's also a denier with true vision, so you have to appreciate that. I love deniers with true vision. I think really deniers without any access to true vision are somewhat ineffective. He's got an easy awakening. He's got really good relic slots. Overall, a really good monster. I think he fell off for me a fair bit when Florian released. He just became a little bit less relevant. Most deniers just kind of fell off, in my opinion, now that Florian's in the game because he just outclasses them all so hard. So anywhere I've got above Primerion for a few reasons. And again, these could really go either way. So anticipation is so valuable right now. So many people are running double anticipation teams just to deal with the Florian Akira teams that are just dominating the meta right now. He's got Cold Blood, so he doesn't have to worry about any Megataunt. And he's probably, off the top of my head, the most effective monster to deal with Charm at the moment, which I greatly appreciate. I know she's fallen off a little bit. People are using her a fair bit less, but I'd say she's still relevant, especially in wars. Enwyr's main downfall for me is the fact that he's just so susceptible to tortures. Just like Kirk, he's got 0 immunities to any tortures. He just feels super squishy in that regard. He dies super quickly, and he struggles a lot dealing with dodge area. The only thing you can really do is use this skill to take away one of the dodge area charges or whatever you want to call them, or run this skill here. I think it's pretty valid to run this skill over the resurrection since he's usually one of the first, if not the first monster to die. So a lot of the time you won't even really be getting this skill, but I like to have it as an option in wars just in case. Sandrite I put above both Primerion and Anwir, mostly for 2 reasons. One, his insane synergy with Akira. He just awakens super, super quickly with Akira if you pair them up together. And two, he's got NER. Yes, it's only single target, but I find single target negative effect removal is just so valuable still, considering how little monsters actually have access to it. I honestly don't really have a ton to say about Xandrite. He mostly got up this high because of his new synergy with Akira. I think if Akira didn't exist, I would definitely have him below Primerion. I'm not sure how much lower, but he would be at least below Primerion. Diabolus climbed up quite a bit for me, just because of the fact that the Underworld Dweller trap is so easily accessible to everyone in the game now. It used to be just like an end of the event board kind of relic, I believe. So it was obviously super rare. Barely any people had it. But now that it's available and considering its synergy with Max, Obscure Sword, I think that's really brings him up a lot for me. And you can never pass up the Demonic Pact resistance. His trait is just, it's beautiful. I wish there was another monster with it because I'm so done with Demonic Pact, honestly. And I know that's kind of ironic because I just did a video on pact holders, but yeah, I kind of wish it wasn't actually in the game. It's very annoying to deal with, but it is. And if you can't beat him, join him, right? One thing to add too about Diabolus' trait is it doesn't just counter Demonic Pact, it also kind of counters Anweir too. Anytime I go up against Anweir in a war, I usually just throw on Diabolus and you're basically set. Not to mention, he's got some of the best relic slots in the game. I really, really, really like double trap monsters. I think that's basically like the perfect setup. So I really like that. Same as Florian, by the way. So he's seen a really big resurgence lately just because of this exact team. And I'll get into that a little bit later when I talk about Florian. Justin is an interesting case. He was the top attacker in the game for such a long time, but I think with some of the newer ancestors, they're really trying to phase him out. I don't think they want him to be the top attacker in the game anymore. And he's definitely not. He's very good. He's still an awesome monster. He's by far the best monster in the superhero book, without a shadow of a doubt. But I don't really like using him in multiplayer anymore. He doesn't do anything too well. He's kind of on a timer like Max, where if you let him awaken, you basically have lost the battle. But he's a lot easier to deal with now. His stats aren't as good. He's not getting like these crazy high damage numbers like he used to. I will say though, the Electro Patrol Sword is very annoying to go up against, whether it's on him or not. It just feels like the meta isn't really set up for him to thrive anymore. He's still pretty easy to awaken with his extra turns if you're able to get them off. He does still get high damage numbers. It's just not as crazy compared to some of the newer attackers, especially like Akira. Akira gets some absolutely bonkers numbers. He's got some solid relic slots. He's got a good awakening. Overall, he's just really good. He's a super great fallback attacker. I just think at this point in the game, he's outclassed by several other attackers. So moving on to S tier, these are all of just like the best monsters in the game in my opinion. Like all these 5 monsters are like at least the top like 7 or 8 monsters in the game in my opinion. Like there might be like a few mythics that could, be swapped out with a few of them if we're talking top 5, but these are without a doubt the best monsters in the game in my opinion. Linneus is just at the bottom just because I think he's really outclassed by Adelaide. If Adelaide didn't exist, I think he could possibly be a little bit higher. But I just don't really ever see a reason to run Lydius instead of Adelaide unless it's specific war restrictions or you have one on attack, one on defense kind of thing. He's got some solid synergy with Akira. If you want, he can hold a trap and a shield relic slot. So he's got like basically perfect relic slots, I would say, for a Megataunt tank, like or a Megataunt trait tank. But he just doesn't really stand out compared to Adelaide in pretty much all the other ways. I did do a video comparing them quite a while back if anyone wants to hear like more in-depth comparisons between them. Maximus is an incredible monster. He's got some really awesome things about him. He's just too one dimensional for me. So he's got a really amazing trait. I love his trait. He's got really solid skills, but unfortunately he falls short in just like no status effects, no negative status effects. He's all raw damage focused. So if you want to pair him up with Diabolus, throw on the Underworld Dweller's Trap, if you get your Diabolus faster than him with a Slumpster's Trap and throw 2 Obscure Swords onto Maximus, you can get an insane amount of chip damage per turn. You can get like over 700,000 on all enemies per turn for 3 turns. So it's pretty bonkers. So he's got some really good synergy there. He just falls off a tiny bit when you're using him on his own without that trap. Both of the Megaton ancestors are Earth Element, and he has this really nice dark AoE skill that can do tons of damage, usually just one-shots them, just one clean go, which is really nice. He's got an extra turn skill. He's got potentially the best awakening condition in the game. He's basically just on a timer, and his trait plays into that as well. The anticipation just helps him out so much with that. I love his trait. I think overall, he's just got some really good skills. I think he just falls off in the fact that he has no negative status effects and his virtues. I do not like his virtues at all. His special attack, his ult really isn't the greatest either. His relic slots you can work around if you're using the team that I just mentioned, if you want to just get D-Balls faster, or if you've got a Star Sailor sword. He definitely changed up the meta when he came out. I remember around when Max came out was when I kind of had to stop using Justin in multiplayer because the extra turn spam just wasn't working anymore. So he's very good at just really shutting down monsters that are very reliant on extra turns. Just because he is on that timer, he's just like a ticking time bomb. If you don't get rid of him quickly, then he could just end the battle. And I really think that's just his main utility. He's like the ultimate anticipation monster, essentially. For our third spot, I'm going to go with Akira. I honestly believe that Akira is the best first ancestor for people to get right now. I think he has replaced Justin as the best first ancestor. I'm going to go into that more in depth in another video. I want to kind of compare the two because Justin was the best first ancestor for the longest time. I really think Akira has overtaken him in that spot. But mostly what it boils down to for me as to why I have Akira this high is, one, his trait. He's an attacker with Resbulk. I love that. Two, he's got infinite extra turns with damage to back it up. He stacks the Evil Mark, which really boosts his damage quite a bit, actually. I was kind of skeptical on it, on the status effect at first before it came out, but yeah, it makes a big difference. So he can really rack up damage quickly with that. Only 5 stacks of it, so 5 extra turns, and he's awakened, meaning he gets a triple damage virtue, and the control immunity is less relevant, but really when you stack the evil marks on top of that 300% damage, he's just unstoppable. Each extra turn he's dealing an insane amount of damage. He doesn't even need strength runes. You can stack him up with 3 speed, 3 team speed, and he still gets very high damage numbers. I think this is the monster I've had the most fun using lately. I actually find his status casters to be pretty nice when you're spamming those extra turns and enemies' relics activate. Yes, like it's not the best because the status casters don't activate at the start of the battle anymore. But I do find it pretty nice when the relics try and hit you with tortures or any kind of status effects and he just completely ignores them with the status casters. For my second best ancestor in the game, I'm going to go with Adelaide. I think he was so meta changing when he came out. I found it really funny that a monster as good as Linnaeus got outclassed in like, was it 2 months, I think? He just immediately became so much less relevant because Adelaide was just so much better than him. He's super easy to awaken, so he gets a very, very easy AoE trait disable Mega Stun with a 30% life removal on top of it. So he awakens super easily. He's got an insane trait. A Mega Taunt trait with torture resistance at the same time is just insane because you're just completely immune to any percentage-based life removal skills. I really do believe Adelaide has the skills to back it up too. He's got an insane trait. He's got good relic slots, and his skills are pretty solid too. They're definitely good enough. All of these three I quite like. This one, I'm really still not sure how I feel about it. Like, it's definitely good, it's definitely usable, but I'm just not a fan of the warm up. Again, I did go a little bit more in depth into that in my Adelaide versus Linnaeus video if anyone wants to check that out. And finally, for my number one best ancestor in the game, I'm going to go with Florian. I believe he's just shaken up the meta so much, and he's actually, I think it's so crazy that he's that good that he's made people start making effective team comps that aren't even using Adelaide and Linnaeus. Like, for a while, everyone was using Linnaeus or Adelaide in one of each of their teams for the longest time, and now people are making really effective teams without either of them, and that's just insane to me. I really thought they would try and phase them out later down the line, but they really just released Florian and just went for it already. Florian just has almost all the tools he needs. He's got an amazing trait with a status caster that ties into his awakening. He's got basically my favorite relic setup in the game. Again, double trap, same as Diabolus, as well as access to the best torture in the game, an anticipation disable cold blood extra turn skill, trait disable extra turn skill, so automatically makes Enkidu and Stina less relevant. He's got a pretty easy awakening with some pretty insane virtues and a really good awakening skill. I just think overall, the fact that he's changed the meta so much, he's so well rounded to deal with all the meta threats, puts him at the number one spot for me. All right, so that was my Ancestor tier list. I really tried to squish it down, make it as compact as possible. This video ended up being quite long, a lot longer than I was hoping. Honestly, I was expecting it to be this long. I was just really trying not to. I will definitely try to articulate my points better on each ancestor whenever I make videos about them separately. But for now, when I'm squishing them all together like this, I'd prefer to keep it short and simple for all of them. I'd really love to hear people's opinions in the comments, what you agree with, what you don't agree with. I've posted my tier list a few times on Reddit and had conversations with people. So yeah, please, anyone that's interested, leave your opinion down below. I'd love to hear it. I love to have conversations regarding the game, and I really appreciate anyone who's actually watched this far.